I'm live. Now let's get the old sharing going on. And I got, before I actually get into the stream, I just got to say a really positive thing that I noticed when I was getting ready to post the notification for this stream on my Twitter account. I'll let you know in just a second here. All right, now that we've got the shares going out to most of the social media platforms, let me just point out that the man, and I don't know what happened to the guy, still got mad respect for him. Really appreciate his help. I really appreciate his past support. And I'm glad to hear that he's at least alive and well, as far as I know, unless someone has taken over his account or a bot. But G Rich, the man, the legend. No, but seriously though, thank you very much for G Rich and everything he's done to help me in the past. And it's nice to see that he's finally come out of whatever was causing him to not interact with me over recent months. I seen that once I posted my link to this stream on Twitter, he was one of the first people that liked it. So he's still around. He's still around, folks, which is really great. And I'm hoping he'll join me in this stream today. And maybe I can find out, hey, what happened, G Rich? What happened, my friend? Or maybe it's something that's personal and private. Hey, that's you, right? You do you. I don't want to be too prying, but inquiring minds would like to know, well, whatever happened? Why? I like I say, we were just building up a genuine rapport, it seemed, and then it just dropped off. And you, I don't know, for some reason, like I say, seemed to cease to exist and have any interactions. But like I say, it's nice to see that has changed and that is reversed as of late. Really appreciate that. Anyways, let me see what we got here now. Okay, close up the old Twitter minds. By the way, folks, yeah, as you know, the social media platforms are getting very restrictive, right? So definitely, if you're not, following me on some of these other social media platforms, I definitely highly recommend that you do so, because you never know how long it's going to be before my presence, my voice no longer exists. Although I've been trying my best, as you folks probably know, over the course of all the years that I've been dealing with online social media platforms, is I try to walk that fine line. I don't want to be disrupted. I don't want to have my voice squashed entirely, right? So I walk that tightrope, right? That fine line is things that you're allowed to say. Now, I get it. It is somewhat of an impedance and restrictions on my freedom of speech, and I understand that. And trust me, it frustrates me as well. But at the same time, for me to have any active participation and get my voice out there to the people, I have to function in a manner that restricts, right, or respects the restrictions or restraints that are contained within these social media organizations, because they are private companies. Although, once again, let me just say, Section 230 is the one thing that I will say, and I 100% as a libertarian, folks, not as an ideologue or idealist, but just as someone let's just take common sense approach, right? If you're, as a social media platform, just like any kind of infrastructure, right? So think about the roadways that we drive upon. You're not, like, the people that build the roads are not liable or at fault if someone has an accident, unless, like I say, they built like a big giant speed bump in the middle of a highway concept, right? Or something like that, where you fucked up. But most of the times, like, hey, I just created the infrastructure, so you can't hold me personally liable, responsible for anything that happens just because I provided the infrastructure. So that's a great thing. And Section 230 does a great job defining and acknowledging that in terms of reducing or eliminating liability. But the problem with social media platforms, as we see these days, is they want to be able to, have both sides. They want to be able to pretend that they have a hands-off approach and be treated as just infrastructure providers, but at the same time want to editorialize or pick and choose what's allowed to be said or promoted on their platform. So once again, you can't have it both ways, right? It's one or the other, folks. Pick one, right? You can't have both. So if you want to be a service provider, okay, provide the service and allow the laws, or allow the government or the politicians or the legislature, allow them to pick and dictate what's allowed to be said or consumed or uploaded on platforms. Because once again, then they're the ones that are personally responsible and liable for what they impede, restrict, or allow. But if you choose to do that as a social media provider, once again, you're shooting yourself in your own proverbial foot, which I don't understand. Stop being political activists, Jack Dorsey, right? Zuckerberg, not so much. Actually, I got to say, Zuckerberg, once again, another notch higher than the rest of the fucks in these established social media platforms. And Mark Zuckerberg has shown time and time again, and even people that disagreed with me and said, no, it's all these platforms. No, as you've seen time and time again, even with Trump and the whole thing, right? Facebook is allowing him to keep his posts up on their platform. So once again, Facebook is a platform that allows much more freedom of speech in terms of the big dominant players than many of their other competitors or alternative platforms. So let's just get this straight right now, once and for all. I've said this for a while. Facebook, they have their flaws, no doubt about it. But once again, if they want to do what they want to do, go ahead. If you want to be editorializers, you want to pick and choose what's allowed on your platform, go ahead. But then you must be willing to at least sacrifice those protections afforded to you under Section 230. So pick one, right? Seems like Zuckerberg probably prefers the latter. Is, okay, I won't editorialize. I'm just going to allow people to say whatever they want to say on the platform. But once again, even then, I've seen some discrepancies and some outliers that suggest that, hey, you too want to play both sides of that coin, and you can't do it. So, like I say, let's get this shit straight out of the gate, that you can't play both sides of the same coin. It's going to fall on one side or the other. Pick one and go with it. Make that your business platform and your business model. Otherwise, you too will be just the most modern iteration of something that became profoundly successful, but failed just as quick as you took off, right? So the launch trajectory was straight up, but you can head straight down if you continue to play the games you're playing. So let's like I say, let's just acknowledge the reality that you can't have it both ways. Now let's talk about. Actually, wait a sec here. Let me see who else is in the stream here. Yeah, okay, cool. Thaco, what's going on, my friend? Who's weird peeping Tom guy in cover photo? In cover photo? Huh? In cover photo. Not quite even sure who's weird peeping Tom guy in cover photo. What? You have to be a little more specific. I'm not sure what cover photo you're talking about there. Thaco, smash that like button below. Thank you very much, Chris Chituras. Fight the good fight. Right on. Appreciate that. Hey, I've seen that picture before in past streams, so I know you've been on the stream before. So thank you very much, and thank you for supporting the channel. Road construction also has no warranties, guarantees when built, right? Well, I don't know. Actually, that kind of, if you're building a road, you kind of gotta do it to a particular standard. That is true. There should be standards, obviously. I'm not against standards, of course. I'm just saying, if there's going to be standards, there can't be any process where some people can eliminate those standards or not be held to the same standards because they have what? Magical powers, right? Dave Dismantled. Government is slavery. Yes. Well, that is force, right? Government is force. And as much as I agree with you there with the government slavery, like I say, for this particular episode, for this particular video stream, we'll just say government is force because that's what progressivism, right? Progressivism sounds good. Progress. It sounds good, right? Hello. Even evolution suggests that progress is quite important. But it's once you start digging into the nuance and those details, those fine details, and it starts to bring a little bit more of the revelations to light, and you realize that, well, is there progress forever in eternity? No, right? Right is right, wrong is wrong. Can you progress beyond that? I don't know. I really, really don't know. Right is right, right is wrong. Theft is wrong, right? Can you progress beyond that point? Not really. Do you ever get to the point where progress means that theft is legitimate? No, I don't consider that progress. And government is force. Taxation is theft. Hashtag taxation is theft. So how is that progress? right? I don't understand, like, progressing theft, progressing wrong ideas, progressing immorality. That's not good. That's not anything that advances humanity, right? So progress and advancement, somehow you seek some contradictions and conflicts just in using those two terms or words that should ultimately mean the same thing. If we functioned in anything remotely resembling a world where consistency was important and the steadfast way in how we deal with things socially or economically. But that's not the case, as you know. It's all about picking winners or losers and manipulating the language politically in that endeavor or that goal. Good evening, all from Namibia. Hey, what's going on, Line in the Sand? And thank you very much for joining us all the way from Namibia. Free speech as long as you keep your mouth shut. Yeah, right on, Cheryl Shepard. Hey, are you related to Lindsay? Mad respect. Actually, you know what? I haven't seen any notifications. Actually, there's so many people that have mad respect for it there in the social media world and on some of these platforms. It's like I even myself get overwhelmed to the point it's like, shit, I forgot about those people. So I kind of somewhat understand why people might overlook my channel from time to time. I get it. You get some new stuff. You want to go check their information out, right? But hey, just don't forget about us at the end of the day. Just like I won't forget about people like Lindsay Shepard, who stood up there at that, what, Laurier. Remember Laurier University? Remember the fucking grilling? Remember the inquisition basically thrust upon and forced upon that young woman, right? And reason why she's turned into basically what you would consider a modern day libertarian lady, right? And it's like, no, this shit's wrong. It's just wrong at the end of the day. Don't try to tell me or compel me how to think, speak, or act, right? Well, unless it's when you talk about act, unless it's to prevent me from using preemptive force or violence. But hey, that's what libertarians are all about at the end of the day. So let's get down here. Free speech as long as you take the narratives we provide. Yeah, right, exactly. That's what the modern iteration of free speech by our political overlords basically suggests, right? Okay, let's see what else we got here. Right on, Cheryl. Exactly. How goes in the great white lockup, right? I know. Yeah. I was even reading, or no, not reading. It was an article, or sorry, an episode on CBC radio I was listening to on my way to work this week. What was it, on Thursday maybe? Might have been Thursday. But anyways, there was like, I can't remember if it was the Northwest Territories or Inuit, one of the territories up in the northern part of Canada, where they had like one COVID case and they started implementing these restrictions and somewhat lockdowns, right? He's like, you had one, right? After the first, 8-9 months of COVID-19, the big outbreak, right? If you've managed to avoid any of that bullshit all this time and you finally get one case and now you start mandating lockdowns, do you not realize how fucking stupidly insane that sounds? It means that the people in your population either are in areas that is going to prevent these kind of massive breakouts because maybe they live too far from each other, maybe the interactions aren't as prevalent. Whatever the excuse or underlying reason, maybe they're just personally responsible. Whatever the reason is, to punish these people preemptively just because one fucking case finally entered your territories, like that's so much. That so much reminds me of that fucking authoritarian boomer mindset, right? God damn it, collective punishment, preemptive punishments. Let's just punish everyone for the act of one or a few, right? That is that fucking mentality. That's that collective mentality that really drives me nuts. That's so authoritarian. It really pisses me off. Anyways, let's see what this said. Hey, thanks for the donation, by the way. Let me just bring this up here real quick. Well, I'm trying. Let me scroll down maybe a little bit further. There we go. There we go. Thank you very much. Chris Chituras, Fight the Good Fight. Thank you for your $5 donation, and I really, really do appreciate that. Enjoy a coffee on me. Many blessings your way. Thank you very much, Chris. You're a gentleman and a scholar, and I appreciate any support financially or even just personally, socially, whatever the hell kind of support I can get. I definitely always appreciate it. So thank you very much. Let me get back down to where I was here. Blacked out, redacted live chats, Cheryl. Yeah, we don't want none of that stuff. Pull my finger. Okay, and I'll do my thing. David Dismantled. If the freedom of speech is taken away, then dumb and silent we may be led to like sheep to the slaughter. 100%, Dave. And that's a great quote, actually. And that is so true, which is why I will never shut up. I will never be silenced. And I refuse to be suppressed in any way, which is why I know, my content as of late does not come across nearly as sensationalized as some others. But you know what? I'm still here, right? Which might ultimately suggest that I'm kind of doing the right thing to make sure at least my voice is still here. It's still present, and it still can be acknowledged, recognized, and seen and heard by a multitude of people, not just on alternative media platforms, but even on the established platforms. So, yeah, it's not that I toe their line or conform to their ideas or ideology. It's just that, yeah, I know the game they're playing, and you know what? I'll beat them at their own game. Hey, hold my beer, right? So that's all it is at the end of the day. And maybe more and more people start to recognize that. If the thanks once again, Chris Shooterus Fight the Good Fight. Hit that like button below. Appreciate that. Essential workers. Some animals are more equal than others. Yeah, really. Essential workers. Well, that's the thing. That's such a loosely defined term, right? Let's get down into what that actually means. I'd be willing to actually do an entire show about what the hell do you define as an essential worker? What does that essential word truly mean? I am Joe Biden and forgot Trudeau is my wife. Nice. Nice. I'm just going to get through a few more of these streams and get into some of the stuff I want to cover, folks. I see force as a positive action in the world. Violence is the negative connotation of force. Well, this is the thing. Government, since I brought up the very fact that government is force, I mean, if you use force and violence as the means to an end, have you ever raised any children and done that as an example in how to raise them? Yeah, it probably worked out for you beneficial when they were young, naive, or unwilling to challenge you in terms of their equality, in terms of force, or their ability to return that force. But I'm pretty sure as you, who's someone who's promoting force as a means to an end, will acknowledge yourself that, yeah, if you promote force towards people and that's their means that they should use to their end, surely you must recognize then that's going to come back and bite you in your ass. Because if the minute someone disagrees with you and they want to use force because you promote that as a means to an end, well, they'll just use force against you, right? And that's what politics has been doing. It's all about fucking using force against your opponent, which is the constant escalation, raising and elevating of using force as your means to an end. Well, yeah, that's worked out good for some people, but it's been detrimental to the whole human or social experiment of what it is for us to try to cohabitate and coexist peacefully. And that don't work out too well when you're constantly using force against each other, right? So that's just the reality. Try it. Hey, if you want to make that or spin that as being a positive thing, I guess you can out of one side of your mouth, but just remember that someone on the other side of that equation is going to do the exact same thing, which is not going to work out as beneficial for you as you might initially think. So yeah, I say force is actually, as a means of defense, as a means, a last chance or a last bastion to prevent others from using force against you, but to be using it preemptively, force as your means to an end, like I say, an eye for an eye, well, it leaves us all blind, right? And if we're all blind, are we really all making meaningful goals and knowing that we're going to not just pursue, but actually achieve them while we're all blind? Not necessarily. You might end up walking off a cliff and meeting your demise. That's what that might ultimately mean, right? I was just talking about cover photos of today's videos. Oh, I was just talking about cover photos. Let me get back up here. Cover peeping Tom guy. Oh, no, that's just the apparently you've never seen 1984, right? If you ever watched the movie 1984, you'll understand it more readily and get the gist of the photo if you ever seen the movie or even read the book 1984. Government Well, that's odd. Everything just shut down and acted like as if I had just restarted my stream, which I did not. I been just doing my thing, but apparently I'm back. So as long as I'm back, that's all, right? That just goes to show though how much craziness goes on these days, right? I mean, how do these fucking tech fucks expect people to live in a world where everything is just, you can't explain the world that is around you? How do people function in a world where you can't explain anything around you? Right? That's the thing that I would ask. That's the question I want to ask or pose to these tech gurus and these fucking central planning fucking utopians, right? Or utopian dipshits is, how do you expect humanity to function when you do shit like this all the time? Oh, I don't know. It's just, it is what it is, right? That wonder. Yeah, people that have no idea about the world that's around them, probably not the most idealist society that you'd ever come up with, right? But that's the thing with these central planning dipshits and these technocrats is they have a one-track mind and they don't know how to think outside of their little proverbial box. Well, what do you think force is? Force does not violate rights. Violence does. Well, what do you think force and violence is? Preemptive force. What do you need, Dave? Do you need me to use the word preemptive force? Because if I got to use the word preemptive force for you to understand that, then I'll do that for you, man. I really will, if that's what's required. But force, not as a means of defense, which I'm all for as a libertarian. That's the thing. You got to understand what libertarians think. People that come to this channel, can you at least Google and learn what libertarians stand for, what the principles are? Because if you don't, it just requires me to keep doing and repeating the same thing time and time again, which actually gets to be very boring and monotonous for me. I'm talking about preemptive force or preemptive threats of violence, which is what government is. And if you haven't figured that out yet, why are you on my libertarian channel? Like, learn this stuff first, right? That's all I would suggest. Just learn stuff. It's really important that you do so. I fart in your general direction. Okay. That's very intellectual. Danny Ringus. Hey, what's going on? Great show every time. The gentleman knows what's up. Damn Skippy, I do. I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. He's looking for a G-rail. I told him we already got one. You're welcome. If Dr. Tam wants 3-layered mask, then she should wear her Tampax on her face. That's all right. Alcohol and weed are essential. Will you know? Not necessarily. Not necessarily, but yeah, it definitely helps it sometimes. I own a liquor store. Talk about essential. Yeah, I guess, right? In this modern world, yeah, it does seem to be that way, but that tells you a whole lot about human psychology and the human experience, right? When most people don't want to live in the real world without some kind of mind-altering substance, that's really what that means, right? I hate to give you some shocking details, but what that means is the real world is a pretty fucking disturbing place. It means people don't want to confront it with a sober mind. That tells you things are pretty fucked up, but if you haven't figured that out by now, well, you might want to try, put a little more effort in doing so. In an equal society, we're all essential. It's how our economy flourishes. Well, that, of course, equal means that's the thing. Equal. Are you talking about equality or equity? Because those have two completely different connotations and meanings. Anyways, let me just say, folks, I'm going to get to some of this stuff. Talk about workplaces and stuff. Let me bring this up. Because this is something that I think is definitely on the table and something that might very well take place at some point in time. And if it does, ooh, damn, it's not going to be good for a lot of people. So here we go. Yeah, you folks can see that. So this is from Huffington Post, and it's actually, it's a repost of MSN, MicrosoftNetwork.com article by HuffPost, or one way or the other, or a reversed situation. Workplaces could bar anti-vaxxers if they refuse COVID jab, Tory MP says. Now, this is out of the UK by Arj Singh 2 days ago. Anti-vaxxers who reject the safe coronavirus jab may not be allowed back into their physical workplaces by their employers. A senior Tory MP has said, a senior, not just a backbencher or a rookie, but a senior Tory MP out of the UK, right? So, a point to ponder. Tom Tugendhat told HuffPost UK he can certainly see the day when bosses do not allow people into the office unless they have received a COVID vaccine. So keep that in mind, folks. Like I said, I've talked about this earlier on. I made some quasi predictions, not really per se, because I don't do a whole lot of predictions, but some internal thought dialogues, although I did speak about them externally, about what this kind of COVID outbreak could do or help in terms of some of these authoritarians or some of these people with authoritarian mindsets. And this could definitely take place in certain particular businesses, organizations, or these corporations that have now turned into basically like quasi governments, right? A similar system could work with social venues like pubs and restaurants asking for vaccination certificates before allowing people in, right? So pubs and restaurants asking for a vaccination certificate before allowing people in. Yeah, nothing authoritarian about that at all, folks. Nothing to see here, right? Right. He compared it to foreign travel, where visitors to certain countries have to show evidence of vaccination against diseases like yellow fever to be allowed into the country. Well, no, that's not quite the same, because we're talking about people that live domestically in countries having to be restricted or have these kind of impositions imposed on them as well. So let's be a little bit more clear and concise, right? Of course, I don't expect that much of the established media, so let's move on. Tugendhat spoke to HuffPost UK's Common People podcast. Oh, you trying to promote another podcast? Big old fucking fail, because these people, no one's going to be watching these podcasts other than a bunch of dipshit status. Whatevs. Following the news that a vaccine being developed by Pfizer and BioNTech was found to be 90% effective. The government is now making plans to roll out the vaccine alongside potentially others if they are proven safe and effective and approved by regulators. Asked whether it was worth thinking about COVID vaccinations being made compulsory if take-up is slow to do anti-vax conspiracy theories, Tugendhat told Commons People, what's worth thinking about is the testing policy. And if vaccination works, and if we're confident it's safe, and all indicators so far are good, then I can certainly see the day when businesses say, look, you've got to return to the office, and if you're not vaccinated, you're not coming in, right? I would just never work for these companies. Be simple as that. And if you're one of those people, that's the thing. What matters most in this modern day world is not what the sheeple do, right? Because sheeple can be replaced, right? These people with very limited or minimal experience and resources or tools at their disposal in the workplaces, whatever. Because like I say, they're easily replaced. It's the people that have the skills that are still not so easily attainable and possessed by people that are, consider themselves higher in their competence levels than their peers, right? These are the people that need to stand up in defense of freedom and liberty. And if they do so, they've got more power than they properly acknowledge or recognize. But how that's going to play out, I don't know. A lot of people seem to lack that self-confidence, courage, and conviction to stand up and do the right thing when it's deemed necessary. And I can certainly see social venues asking for vaccination. And I can certainly see social venues. Well, if they do, they just won't have anyone ever frequent their fucking venues. That's what I mean. If these venues want to force you or compel you to do these things, well, just don't do them. And their venues would be like, they're the ones that were going to profit from these social media platforms or social venues or social events. If they were going to benefit in their own way, because that's why they put them on, they just don't show up, right? Rain on their fucking parade. And then maybe they might change their mind and stop trying to force or thrust or impose themselves on you. That's the thing. The only way this paradigm changes is where the people recognize and acknowledge that you're the fucks. We're the people with the real power. Until you acknowledge that, you're just going to keep allowing central planners, experts, or these corporate execs or big government hacks constantly ruling over you and basically railroading over your own individual mindset or concepts. Stop doing that. think for yourself, be more critical, and hold these dipshits to account, and place yourself back in the driver's seat. That's something that I would suggest is really important these days. Anyways, I'll place a link to this article in the description of the stream so that you can continue on and read it. I think I've covered just about enough is all I really need to today. So workplaces are already looking for that time or that timeline where they might want to impose even more restrictions and mandates on you. Are you willing to accept it? Are you willing to bow, yield, conform? Well, I guess time will tell. Okay, what else do we get here? Yeah. And check this, folks, out. I wanted to bring this up as well because this is another really important thing. Actually, let me get back into reading a few more comments. Society is just a construct? Yes, it surely is. Force? Totally, brother. I don't know what that is. I'm rolling a fatty. This is getting good. Definitely roll a fatty. I always recommend fatties. No, for sure. Yeah, rolling up. Equal under the law. Hey, Wendy, what's going on, Wendy? Nice to see you in the chat. Very, very nice to see you. Hi, Ben and everyone. And I'm really hoping as I scroll down here, I'm going to finally get to see G Rich in this chat. I would really love to see that G Rich has once again joined in the fight for freedom, and it's showing that he's still doing good. You know, he's made it through whatever trials or tribulations that he's had to deal with, and he's still rocking the ability to speak freely. So come on out, G Rich. I'm hoping to see you down there in the chat. Jim McCall, hey, hello. King County, essential fatto. Oh, essential fatties. Yeah, essential fatties. Well, fatties can be essential at times. We've all had the same natural right. We all have the same natural rights. Yes. Oh, I agree. All those inherent and inalienable natural rights are something that, yeah, it's like governments don't get to necessarily define them, or they don't necessarily uphold or protect them, right? No, it's just that they have to respect them. Inalienable and inherent rights and freedoms it's just what it is to be born as a free human being. And the only goal, job, or responsibility of any central planner or government, supposedly, right, is just to respect and adhere to them. The minute they step outside that bounds, that's when you realize you're not functioning under anything that's remotely resembling like a government that represents the people, right? Although that's already a farce, and I've proven that in the past. But those who still believe in that nonsense, the minute they try to overstep their bounds and try to restrict, impose, or impede on your freedoms or your liberties, well, then you're living in an authoritarian situation. You're not being represented, you're being ruled. Sorry for that reality check, but hey, it's something that's really important and people need to understand. We have eyes, but our brains don't see. Some people do. Some people we see just fine. Okay, let me scroll back up here. I seem to have oh yeah, went down way far. Where the holy shit? Damn. Apparently lots of comments. Okay, there. Now we're back to where we were. Oh, yeah, here we go. Just lost feed. Yeah, sorry about that. I don't have no idea what the hell happened, Jim McCall, but it is what it is. Just try re-clicking on it or go straight. Like I said, like I always say, just go straight to my Canadian Libertarian YouTube channel and you'll be able to find it, right? Because YouTube might not place it in the recommended or allow the algorithm to pick it up. So yeah, but like I say, it's really easy to overcome or circumvent any of these restrictions or impositions on my freedom to be able to put my content out there by just going straight to my page. And I guarantee you'll find it. It's right there. They cut them. I'm still here as far as I can see anyways, but he's back. Like Stan said, I'm back. He took a quick puff. No, I would have done that straight up, man. But no, I didn't really. But anyways, fuckers. Force, intimidation, all the same. Exactly. Bill Gates medical virus and voting computer virus swings voters. Well, listen, I'll tell you what's going on down in the U.S. That's quite the thing, and it's wild. Oh, I'm not a libertarian. That's why. So you don't believe in? So you like using force as a means to an end? Because I don't even believe that, Dave. Dave, come on, man. Do you really like? So do you? This is the thing with people that say this stuff. It's so funny. So do you believe that violence is the ultimate means to an end, or force is the? Because if that's the case, then I guess you wouldn't be upset if someone come and took everything that you owned and worked hard for all the course of your life. Because hey, they just happened to beat me at that game, right? They just happened to show that they were stronger and mightier than I am. So hey, I guess I better bow to their fucking force, their power, and their prowess, right? Surely that can't be your mindset, Dave. And if it is, let me know where you live, because I'm a pretty rugged dude. And if you got anything that's worthwhile, since you're willing to accept force, violence, or theft as a means to an end, maybe I can benefit at your expense. No, but come on. I just can't believe people actually think that way. Unless you think that you are the strongest out of everybody, right? Even myself, I don't believe that. So I can't imagine anyone that's in that mindset. But anyways, maybe, hey, Dave, Dismantle, here's an idea. How about we clarify some things and we'll have a conversation? Because, in chat form, it's so hard. Let's have an actual nuanced conversation someday, Dave Dismantle. Send me a message on any of my social media platforms and we'll talk about what this means, that the fact that you support or promote force as a means to an end. Because I think if I prod you enough and ask you enough questions in regard to that, I think even you'll acknowledge it. Not necessarily, right? Why censor flat earth? Yeah, exactly. I agree. Why censor flat earth? Bill Gates information of vaccines. I agree. Let all this crazy shit come out. Let information explode and be available to everyone, right? That's really, their information is going to exist. Disinformation is going to exist. Propaganda is going to exist. Conspiracy theories is going to exist. But you know what? Trying to suppress or silence people's voices just gives the excuse for authoritarians to prevent other people from speaking out or actively against some of their premises or notions. But it also prevents people from thinking critically. Because if you're told it's this way, it's my way or the highway, and you're never given any alternative source of information, well, obviously you're not going to be giving anyone the ability to think critically. How you test people's ability to think critically is giving them some bad information, some misinformation, and test their hypothesis or their thesis against truth or objective logic or reason, right? That's the only way you can properly test that stuff. But like I say, the authoritarians, they just want to be able to have it so that they can say whatever they say. Nobody can challenge it. And you'll just do exactly what you're told. That's what they want at the end of the day. Mob pressure is a form of force. It's how the witches were burnt at the stakes, etc. 100%. Stan always knows. Stan is a wise individual all on his own. It's how they will enforce mask laws from fear-mongered majority elderly populations. I agree, Stan. Like I say, you're a wise man. The Dominion of Canada is run by the Dominion voting machines. I heard about this Dominion voting machine thing. But like I say, even when you're talking about the U.S. elections, whether it's all a scam, that's kind of a moot point to me. And it might very well be. I don't doubt there was probably some nefarious bullshit that happened. But maybe it's just the fact that the Biden administration and all these collectivist authoritarians, they just, like I say, they pulled out all stops to get all authoritarians on side and on board with supporting authoritarianism. And I don't even think it's that difficult to get people to support authoritarianism when they recognize there's an immediate and a omnipresent benefit to them at other people's expense. That's the thing about libertarians or Austrians, is we just acknowledge and recognize humanity and humans, how they actually function in the real world. There is no utopianism or idealism in terms of proper libertarianism and how we understand how humans function in the social economic realm. That's the thing that drives me nuts. Is people that call you libertarians utopians, no, actually they understand fully how unperfect and fallible the human species and individuals are. That's the whole point, and why you don't give anyone, any individual, group or tribe this pretends of authority over others, because we recognize how fallible humans really are. That's the one overarching emphasis and point that I think most people should take away from libertarianism is we all recognize that humans are fallible, right? We're not perfect individuals. So there's not going to be any utopianism or idealistic future, right? Not when humans are involved. So the only thing that we have at the end of the day is just reduce or ultimately eliminate this pretense or this false premise that we should use force as the means to an end. Because once you've promoted force as the means to an end, well, that's why you see this rise and ramp up in human suffering, pain, and devastation, right? It is what it is, folks. Rika, hello, lady. Hello to you, Rika. Very, very nice to see you. Always happy to see Rika in the chat. Good to see you, and hopefully you've got some more to offer down a little bit further on. Anyways, let me get back to covering some of the other articles that I wanted to bring up here. Oh, yeah, let's talk about this. This is important. I've covered a little bit in the past, but let's deal with it right now. Because it's another one of those consequences of these COVID lockdowns that not a whole lot of people are talking about, but it's very important that we do so. So as you can see, this is out of the Foundation for Economic Education. A great publication, great site, I will add. And if you haven't already subscribed or found yourself using this as a source of information, well, I definitely highly recommend you do so going forward. So the headline out of this one is Harvard researchers, nearly half, folks, half, all right, of young adults showing signs of depression amid pandemic. As the pandemic continues, the severe costs of lockdowns on young adults and others are becoming distressingly clear. This is reported on Friday, November 13th, 2020 by Carrie McDonald. And thank you, Carrie McDonald, for producing such a great article. And let me just read just a little bit from it to get you folks up to speed into what this lady has to say. Mounting evidence shows that pandemic-related lockdowns and restrictions have inflicted much more harm on younger people than the coronavirus itself. A new report reveals that nearly half of 18 to 24-year-olds are showing at least moderate depressive symptoms. And for many, the depression is severe. Like, that's just a sad state, folks, because this stuff, carries on and plays out for the rest of your life, right? This is not just something that happens temporarily. This stuff has a profound effect on your long-term consequences, not just in your mental health, but your social and economic prospects going forward. So keep that in mind. Researchers at Harvard, Northeastern, Rutgers, and Northwestern universities conducted 8 large survey rounds across all U.S. states from April through October, finding that younger adults are increasingly having social thoughts or suicidal thoughts. In the U.S. adult populations as a whole, the incidence of suicidal ideation typically hover around 3.4%. But this new study reveals that in October, 36.9% of young adults had suicidal thoughts compared to 32.2% in May in the wake of this first round of government lockdowns. So that's quite substantial, folks, right? You're talking about a whole third of an entire demographic, which is profound. These new figures reinforce similarly dismal data released by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in August. The CDC found that 1/4 of young people ages 18 to 24 contemplated suicide in the previous month, in large part due to the pandemic and lockdowns. So it would be the lockdowns more so than the pandemic, because the pandemic itself is not what's causing this kind of harm, restrictions, or mandates. It's the lockdowns. It's the government response. And now that's another thing. Pandemic. When is this no longer a pandemic, right? What is the defining measure that defines when something's a pandemic? Because we've seen how the case loads or levels have been like on a roller coaster road, especially, like I say, in Atlantic Canada, where I currently reside. How can you consider it a pandemic when there's less than 24 active cases? How the fuck is that a pandemic? When you're talking about multiple provinces and millions of people, and you only have less then let's say 100 active cases in an entire jurisdiction that has multiple provinces and millions of people. How the fuck can you call it a pandemic? That's a question that I want to ask. I would love to ask or pose to some of the so-called experts, although I doubt I would ever get the opportunity because they will never give me the chance. Because that's the thing with these people. They want to function in an environment where they can control the narrative. The minute they're placed in an environment where they would have to come onto a channel of someone like myself where they don't have control, and I basically can ask them what I want, and they actually have to function on the fly without having everything set up in their favor. Like, that's why people like us, we're not going to have any real sway or influence, because we basically are forced to function in our own echo chambers. We try to expand our reach, but we're constantly restricted, imposed, and said, hey, get back in your corner, right? According to the new study, lockdowns and other pandemic policies have drastically upended the lives of most young adults. Only 20% of study participants said that they experienced little change since the pandemic began, right? Imagine what kind of people is representative in this 20% of that study, right? Instead, just over half of the participants said that their school or university had closed, while 41% had to adapt to working from home, 28% experienced a pay cut, and 26% were laid off. The next presidential administration will lead a country where unprecedented numbers of younger individuals are experiencing depression, anxiety, and for some, thoughts of suicide, the report's authors conclude. These symptoms are not concentrated among any particular subgroup or religion or region in a survey. They're elevated in every group we examine. So, yeah, there's that, folks. There's that. Anyways, like I said, all this stuff will be linked in the description of the stream below. There's another article here I want to get to, but let me get back to the stream and see what else a few folks are saying. Like I say, I'm still looking to see if G. Rich is going to join us today. Yes, I agree. When you say implied or preemptive force, that is actually called coercion, isn't it? Yeah, anything that's used preemptively or forced upon people where there's no mutual agreement to it. If you force yourself on me, then that is force, that is coercion. But yes, I would agree with you there. Yes, Stan, like a hive mind. All of them running for the cliff face, and no matter how much you yell at them to stop, they keep going, dragging you with them. That's the problem, Stan, right? I wouldn't give a shit about some fucking dipshit that's run towards the edge of a cliff, right? As long as they're the only one that falls. But that's the problem with this collectivism where we're all in it together, right? With collectivism is, you unfortunately get to bring me down with you. That's the problem with this shit. That's why independence, sovereignty is so important, is you do you. And you know what? You're the one that's going to have to suffer the consequences of whatever choices or actions that you make. But you should never have the ability to force me to suffer because of the actions that you imposed or you chose yourself, right? Unless I'm the victim of your choice or your force or your decision. But absent that, nothing that you say, that's the problem with politics. Nothing you choose to support should have any detriment effect on me. That's the problem with politics, is other people get to impose themselves on you, which at the end of the day, why the fuck are you willing to accept other people imposing themselves on you, right? I know why you probably accept the fact that you get to impose yourself on other people. I get that. That's a very selfish mentality, and that is part of the human experience. But why are you willing to accept other people forcing or imposing themselves on you, right? The only way that you get to prevent that is by you being willing to say, okay, I don't get to force or impose myself on you. But that's the thing. People are so apparently these days want to impose and force and thrust themselves on others. They're even willing to accept other people doing the same to them, as long as they're still afforded or affronted the ability to do the exact same. But at some point in time, that's going to work out detrimental, because that's the thing with politics and democracy, is if you're on the losing side of democracy or the majority of the mob, well, you're the one that's going to always suffer forever and eternally. So you might want to think about that stuff. Hey, what's going on, Rage in the Cage? Hello, everyone. Guess what? No notification. Imagine that. No notification. Well, let me just say, just in case, Rage in the Cage, real quickly, actually do it right here while I'm still on the stream. Go to my YouTube channel that you've obviously subscribed to, hopefully, right? And check on that bell notifications and see if you've got that all right? In terms of the notifications. Here, let me show you how that works. I'm going to do this real quick for you folks, just so I can show you once and for all how this stuff works. I got to find a channel that I'm not currently subscribed to. Let's see. Or actually, no. Here, my son just created a new channel. All right, and I'm going to show you this. And here, let me get this. Okay, share screen. And I'll show you by doing it with him. Oh, shit, didn't even come up. Oh, wait, here it is. Okay, so I'm just going to show you. So this is my oldest son. He created his own YouTube channel there. He's getting slowly growth on his subscribers. But if you look here, actually, let me make sure you can see that, right? So if you look here, right, all you have to do. So right now I'm subscribed, and you see how it's got the little lines on the other side of the bell. But let me just show you. Let's say I wasn't unsubscribed. So I'm going to unsubscribe from it right now. So this is just another channel. So just like here, if you were going to subscribe to my channel and you went and did this, right? So it's like, yeah, I like what this guy has to say. Boom, let me hit that subscribe button. Well, that's not enough. You're not going to get notified, in particular because YouTube doesn't necessarily want to recommend my kind of content to you. So if you just got to click like that, subscribe, and you see how the bell notification, there's no little, see those two little lines, they're gone, right? Well, here's what has to take place. If you want to get notified when all of my videos are uploaded, you have to hover over that bell. See how I click that? You see that? See how that works? Really not that hard. Really not that difficult. Now, you can click all, personalized, or none. Now, if you had that line through there, you would get no notifications. You're never going to be notified if my video is uploaded. Hey, even if you just got personalized, well, the algorithm is going to go based on your history and basically all the personalized aspects of your channel. So you might not get recommended or a notification in terms of all the videos I produce. Whereas if you do hit this button, boom, all. You see that? Done. Hit all, and guaranteed, if you click that all button under the bell icon, you will get notified, right? And if they don't notify you after you've clicked all, then that gives me fodder to use against them. I can sue these motherfuckers. I can sue their pants off of them for not giving you the notifications. So hey, if you want to fuck these big corporate executives in these social media platforms over, show me where you've subscribed and clicked all and still aren't getting notified. Then you've given me some fodder to use against them. But until that happens, it's just people saying, I didn't get notified. Well, listen, like I've said many times, little personality or a little personal responsibility goes a long way. So if you do what I just showed you to do and you're still not getting a notification, let me know in the description of this stream or any other video I've ever done, or send me a message on any of my social media platforms. And please do give me that fodder to use against these social media platforms, because I will definitely do so. Anyway, so glad that I get to show you folks that. That's something actually I haven't done in quite a while, but at least should help people. Hey, I'm going to destroy your ability to use ignorance as an excuse. Right? Leftist control freaks are the virus. Yeah, I agree. That's actually the point where the government is forced in the name of this entire stream, which is a perpetual pandemic of progressivism. Because progressivism is constantly showing it's not even about progress. That's the other thing. Progress sounds good in theory, but what? People can progress in their ability to use force, violence, or theft as a means to an end. You can always progress in that skill, right? Thieves progress in their skills and their abilities to steal or take preemptively from others without their express or implied permission. I mean, to them, that's considered progress. If you're a better pickpocket or thief, that is progress. But not all progress is created equal. And not all progress is actually what is deemed or considered worthy of equality in terms of the human experience. What do you do when life gives you lemons? Make lemonade? No, just kidding. I know, right? I know that's kind of lame. I get it. Denny Ring is the lockdown has something to do with global reset. Oh, the global reset. Let me get to that. Great point to bring up. Very great point to bring up. I'm actually glad you did that because that's going to perfectly segue into an article that I was getting ready to share anyway. So let's just do that and hasten the pace. So as you can see, this one, Build Back Better, this one happens to be out of Sky News, I believe, which is out of Australia. But let's just read a little bit about this. Build Back Better, used to push eco-Marxist, anti-capitalist UN agenda. So this is reported on November the 1st, 2020. Sky News host Rowan Dean says the slogan Build Back Better has been harnessed by political environmental conscious institutions such as the United Nations as a tool to push the so-called Great Reset, right? Sounds a whole lot like the New Deal, right? Another description to describe how these people can kind of reset all their bad actions, their bad choices, their malfeasance, their immorality, and all the terrible things that they've done in the past. And they have this ability to just, I don't know, hit reset and start all over again. Fuck that shit. These people should have to suffer the consequences for their malfeasance and their bad deeds. And that's just a reality, because the only way, if you want to change anyone and you get them to affect their habits and behaviors and change them in any way, right, is they have to suffer the consequences. And any one of you who has ever lived in the real world, which I'm sure you must have at some point in time, realize that is the truth. If you want someone to correct or change their bad habits or behaviors, well, they have to suffer the consequences. If you think you can just reset and allow them to keep doing the same things they've been doing all along, well, it just means a continuation of those same bad acts, bad deeds, and misbehavior. Mr. Dean referred to a description produced by the World Economic Forum, a champion of the Great Reset idea, where they fantasized of the utopia it would bring about, which read, I own nothing, I have no privacy, and life has never been better. How utopian, how Orwellian. The World Economic Forum's experts predicted and went on to fantasize that there will be a global carbon tax, U.S. dominance will be a thing of the past, we'll have stopped eating meat, and, wait for it, a global displacement of 1 billion people because of climate change, he said. But how do the World's Economic Forum and the United Nations intend to bring about this utopia of theirs? This great reset they keep promising us? Well, they need national and state governments to play along. And one of the key tools is a 3-word slogan: Build Back Better. You got to be careful of these damn slogans, right? Mr. Dean said in a light bulb moment, the World Economic Forum, among numerous bodies, recognized the power of this innocuous sounding slogan. With a simple sleight of hand, they realized any disaster can be the perfect excuse to build back better, he said, meaning build back greener, but using the money that should be going to disaster relief to instead subsidize the eco-Marxist, anti-capitalist UN agenda, at the same time as making renewables investors very rich. So well said indeed. And that's the thing that we got to watch for, folks, is these folks, it's like, what do you think? Of course, they always come up with the fact that this is good. It's always going to be good, just like the New Deal, right? It's always going to be a good thing, but it never turns out to be. As we've seen, it's turned out to be a detriment, right? It always has been. And for people not to accept that reality, it's to believe in utopianism, right? It's to mean that you can overspend or overtax people today and somehow that's going to make them more prosperous tomorrow. No. Causing harm today also means you've caused harm tomorrow. Because harm never goes away. It doesn't cease to exist. It is a reality. Causing harm to people, I mean, sure, they might be able to compensate or make up for it. That is always a reality. But the harm has already been happening and it's already been inflicted. The key role or goal, as I would suggest, is to reduce or ultimately eliminate as much harm or preemptive harm from happening as humanly possible. Acknowledging that harm is going to take place, but we don't have to centrally plan or preemptively use harm as a means to an end. The actual most truthful statement is if not stuck in just another ideology called libertarianism, is that government is coercion, violence, and slavery. The actual and most truthful statement. If not stuck in just another ideology called libertarianism, Dave, all you got to do, buddy, listen, nothing to get you, man, but just look up what it means, libertarianism. Self-ownership, I own me. Nobody gets to claim ownership over me, right? So I'm not a slave, subject, or servant. That's libertarianism. Property rights, right? So anything I produce or provide, that's not used violence, coercion, force, or compulsion, right? Anything I provide voluntarily with my intellect, with my labor, and all that entails, right? That's mine. I own that. Nobody gets to claim ownership over something that I produced or provided, right? And finally, but definitely not least, is the non-aggression principle. Don't use preemptive force, violence, coercion, or theft towards your fellow man, woman, or child. That's what libertarianism is. So to argue against libertarianism is to suggest what? Force is better, right? I mean, sure, it can be beneficial. Like force has always been proven to be beneficial in the short term, right? If I go steal some old lady's purse and she happened to just cash her, I don't know what, a pension check that month, and then there's $1,000 and I get to take that $1,000 that was in her purse, that's immediate gratification and an immediate benefit to me at her expense. 100%. I definitely benefit from that. But the long-term consequences is going to prove to be detrimental for society at large if we constantly use preemptive force, violence, or theft as a means to an end, because that means everyone else is going to want to do the same thing or use that against me, which means that not only would I lose that $1,000 that I supposedly stole from this old lady, but anything that I might have garnered or attained under my own fruitful endeavors or work or labor, right? So it just doesn't work out. That's the thing. Voluntarism, peaceful interactions, social or economically, that's what creates or instills the flourishment of peaceful transactions, interactions, and proper endeavors of human nature. That's what we need at the end of the day. But using preemptive violence, sure, it has immediate self-gratuitous benefits, but it's always in the short term, never in the long term. Yeah, make lemonade. Good one, Stan. Whoa, wait, is the problem yellow fever or COVID's 1984? Exactly. That's the question, right? Lol. I'd rather walk my own path than follow a crowd over a cliff. So well said, Betrayed 1914, and I feel the same way. Vax is full of nano chips. Well, whether it is or not, I just doesn't matter. I just don't want nothing to do with it, to be honest with you. To be honest with you, you do your thing. Hey, do your thing. If you want to do that, you go right ahead. Anyways, let me get to the next article. And this is something I think is a pretty important article to cover. So let me bring this on here. Where exactly are Canadians catching COVID-19? Our authorities are not totally sure. What? Wait, what? You mean you're not even totally sure how they're contacting this fucking supposed pandemic, this virus, but yet you're still trying to impose all this bullshit on the people that's causing so much social and economic harm? Sounds like a big old fail. Sounds like government, right? Anyways, let me just read a little bit. Publicly available data is limited, and underlying the lack of statistics is another problem. Contact tracing in some areas of Canada has been overwhelmed by the number of cases. This is being reported by Tom Blackwell, November 14th, 2020. As provinces and cities move closer to a full lockdown to prevent the spike in COVID-19 cases, one question remains less than crystal clear. Where exactly is the increasingly rampant transmission of the coronavirus happening? Is it in restaurants and bars, at schools and factories, or mainly in private homes? Well, it seems, as far as I'm concerned, all the reports that I've seen in New Brunswick as of late, in most of the social media outlets and even the established media outlets, it seems to be in these long-term care facilities or travel related, right? So these are areas like, think about it, airports, airplanes, and travel, international travel or long-term care facilities. These are areas and examples should be easily restricted and contained by just making sure that people are held to the particular standard that these assholes in government try to suggest. You're not hearing about it from your local, person that's going to the grocery store or to get gas, right? Going in and paying the gas attendant for the gas. You're not hearing any examples of this, are you? No, it's in these long-term care facilities, which once again, I'll repeat myself for the umpteenth time, where you have an immediate ability to restrict access to these facilities. And you have people that are in the medical field and professionals in the medical field that have the ability and the competence, should be the skills, to do a much better job. But these are the places where you're seeing these active outbreaks taking place, or from international travel. I mean, the fact that the government is now even suggesting they still want to ramp up immigration in this country to bring in over 1 million people in this country over the next 3 years under the pretense of a lockdown and a global pandemic. I mean, think about how insane that sounds just on its own. But this is the world that we currently function. This is the Orwellian world that we're currently function. Whereas places like the Atlantic bubble in Atlantic Canada, where, like I say, cases you could count on your hand. But yet they still want to create these kind of lockdowns and restrictions and impose these mandates on the people, even when it's not needed or necessary. That's the fucked up part of it, is this one-size-fits-all approach, this collective punishment, this preemptive punishment. It's something, like I say, has been devastating and has caused the world to be in the position that it is today. That's the problem with this kind of progressivism, where we want to treat everyone equally. Well, look, that's the race to the lowest common denominator. That's the race to the bottom. I don't want to end up at the bottom. What about you? That's a bad place to be for humanity in 2020, to be raising down to the bottom or the lowest common denominator, when in reality, progressivism or progress at the very least should mean the opposite of that. But that's the thing that happens in this modern world, where central planning, coercion, violence, and force, aka government, takes center stage and a precedent over everything or anything that remotely resembles freedom, liberty, or individual choice, responsibility, or autonomy. Meanwhile, the restaurant sector and others are increasingly straining under restrictions that have already shut down thousands of businesses and put hundreds of thousands of staff out of work. And think about the consequences of placing thousands and thousands of businesses and hundreds of thousands of people out of work. Pretty negative, right? Much, much more negative than someone that is contacted with COVID that is in a completely healthy environment and healthy themselves, where it's just, to them, it's like brush it off the shoulder, right? What's more detrimental to these people, the lockdowns or the virus itself? And I would suggest and say reality, and that's acknowledged in the numbers, is these restrictions, these lockdowns are actually causing more harm than the virus itself. But the publicly available data is limited, and underlying the lack of statistics is another surprising problem. Contact tracing, a key part of the successful strategy against COVID-19 in East Asia countries, has in some areas of Canada been overwhelmed by the sheer number of cases. In Ontario, the setting where 60% of infections occurred is simply unknown. Unfortunately, the hard reality is that we don't know that much, said Dion Alaman, a University of Toronto engineering professor who studies health-related systems. Without being able to do extensive contact tracing, it's hard to know what's exactly happening, and without knowing exactly what's happening, it's become virtually impossible to have any success stopping this disease by imposing very minimal targeted restrictions. Well, first of all, let me just push back against this nonsense. Restricting more people's rights, freedoms, and their privacy, that's the thing. Stop playing this game where utilitarianism of authoritarianism is the ultimate means to an end. Because yes, we can all conjure up and construct many ideas or ways where you can just force or impose yourself on people that you might get. Like I say, you want to prevent any outbreaks entirely? Well, there's an easy way to do that. Lock everyone up in little cages, isolated and alone. That would completely eliminate any potential for the COVID-19 from being spread in any country. But it also means we're all, right, locked up and not living as actual free human beings. So that's that balance. That's that measure where we all have to take into account, where it's like, do you want to have freedom unbridled? Even freedom that might be scary and come with potential harms or hazards. Or are you choosing, I want the false pretense of safety and security, knowing full well, or with these media hacks trying to suggest you that there are no bad outcomes or potentials by doing so. That's the thing. It's like people that actually are foolish or naive enough to believe that you can just find a methodology that's going to be beneficial for the masses in terms of restricting or eliminating these potential COVID outbreaks or this pandemic from expanding. Well, you have to acknowledge the only way that happens is, like I say, to prevent people from having freedom. And I would suggest, and I think I would be right in suggesting, that at the end of the day, even these so-called progressives would probably want their freedoms as being more paramount than restrictions that are imposed on them, right? Isn't that the whole point of progress? Or are progressives literally suggesting that human progress is only truly achieved or attained is when we're all slaves, servants, or subjects to a ruling class and no longer have any semblance of freedom or liberty, right? Is that what they're suggesting progress is? Because if it is, then I would suggest progressivism is an Orwellian term to describe regressive human actions and behavior. Anyways, folks, I'll place a link to this in the description of the video as well. But let me get back to seeing what everyone else is saying in the stream. Because like I say, what are we at here? We're an hour and 10 minutes. You know, I don't want to go too much. 2 hours is probably going to be plenty for this stream. But I'm really happy to be able to see there's quite a few people that have joined me today. Still waiting to see G Rich in the stream. So far, it's not happening. It is not an army of lions led by a sheep that I fear, but an army of sheep led by a lion. Alexander the Great. That's a pretty good one. Yeah, that kind of makes sense to me, but an army of sheep led by a lion. Yeah, that's very much possible. I personally, I don't believe in either scenario, right? I think people should have their own autonomy and freedom and not necessarily be led astray by one side or the other. And we wonder why Guy Fawkes tried to blow up the parliament. Yeah. I am more afraid of the long-term effects of the vaccine than the Wuhan. Yes. Vote with your wallet. I would definitely agree with that on that, Don Knighthood. Yeah, I don't know what's up with Fox News. Like I say, they're all establishment media outlets. I don't trust any of them. I don't watch any of them. Matter of fact, other than what I see on social media where people cover that, I don't watch most of these like Fox, CNN. I got rid of all my cable subscription years ago because I saw where that was going, and it's devastating to the mind and the psychology and your human health, mentally and psychologically for sure. So now I still want to hear what they've got to say in terms of, like I say, just find one or two sources. And the source that I choose is CBC because I know they're just going to repeat and regurgitate the same kind of bullshit political talking points. Because that's the thing. I also want to be properly informed in even what the enemies of freedom and liberty are saying, but I just don't want to be constantly inundated and overwhelmed with it. Same thing. The Bible predicted the day when evil will not allow you to buy or sell without the mark of the beast. Right now, it looks like it's the mask of the beast. Take out the mask. Do not comply. Well, let me just say, so far, that picture's fucking funny. That looks like my son's cat, Mia. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyways, but yeah, I definitely agree with the whole Revelations. And, that's the thing. History, that's the thing. It does seem to rhyme to the point where you can make these kind of quasi predictions and they seem to come together and to be fruitful. And that's why people still have mysticism, right? It's like, well, wait a minute. There's got to be something behind these predictions, right? Because it seems to happen time and time again. That's the problem with people. Like, no wonder they still fall for this stuff. Because if in the absence of truly understanding objectively the world that surrounds you, some of these things make sense. But yeah, it's definitely seeming like, well, it's not just the mask, but it's going to be vaccine. Are we going to have numbers, right? Are we going to have a social credit score? That's all these things are definitely playing into the hand and playing into the fodder that's being used by people that promote these kind of dystopian futures, right? The return of the speakeasy. The return of the speakeasy. Nice, Rika. Okay, so now I'm going to get back to, so we've covered this one. What else do we got here? Let me check and see what else we got. We've got lots, folks. Lots. We got this one. Well, this headline out of the Financial Post: almost a third of businesses on the brink in second wave of virus. Stats Canada survey finds. So businesses are basically almost to the point of insolvency once again. An earthquake is coming. This one too is out of the Financial Post headline: an earthquake is coming. Insolvency second wave looms as once strong businesses falter. Right? The government's been propping these fucks up, and that's the only thing that's keeping them under this pretense where we're still doing good. It's because government's been propping you up. So forcing Canadians, right? Because government is force, folks. So forcing other people to prop up or pay for your business against their will, I suppose, right? That might keep you going for a while, but yeah, that's not going to last forever. Another one from National Post: Canada's generous COVID-19 income supports vastly outpaced other developed nations. So that's going to come back to bite people in the ass. What else do we got here? Another long-term care home in Greater Toronto area battles COVID-19 outbreak with 7 residents dead. So once again, government, which is in charge of regulating and controlling what happens in these long-term care facilities, this seems to be the one area that they can't fucking seem to do a very good job at. And this is the area where government has the most control, right? Over. And yet these are the areas where they're failing the most. So once again, put government in charge of sand or a desert, and sand would be obsolete or a rare substance in short order. Force is not the way to an end. Force is never the answer, folks, or rarely ever the answer. Another one, this one out of CBC News: experts fear slow motion train wreck of bankruptcies as COVID-19 relief programs wind down. So let me just read a little bit from this article. As COVID-19 relief programs wind down, bankruptcies are starting to spike again. This under the business section. Oh, let me bring this up actually. Insolvencies spiked by almost 20% in September and could be poised to skyrocket. So this be reported by Peter Evans, November 15th, 2020. After a lull in the early days of COVID-19, more and more Canadians are starting to file for bankruptcy again. And experts in the field say government has to do more and soon, or the economy could face a tsunami of insolvencies in the coming months. Like, just keep bailing out the failures, right? Just keep propping up the failures, and somehow that's going to make people better. I mean, when have you ever seen that example actually play out in the real world and come to fruition where exactly played out the way you wanted it, right? Think about it in your own personal life or any anecdotal experience or externally that you've ever seen, where keep promoting or sustaining people making wrong decisions, how that somehow is translated or turned into them being wiser, more prudent, or making wise decisions. When the hell has that ever happened? It doesn't. Propping up or supporting or bailing out people that make wrong decisions only reinforces and emboldens them to make the same goddamn stupid, idiotic ideas or opinions or decisions. I just, like I say, could you imagine every time your kid did something wrong, you just said, oh, no, that's okay. No, that's okay. That's okay. Let me just bail you. Like I say, just think about that. You extrapolate that idea or that concept in your own personal life, no matter who you're using as an example, and tell me at any time where that has ever worked out to be beneficial for anyone involved. Come on. Other than the snake oil salesman that's selling that kind of bullshit. After a lull in the early days of COVID-19, more and more Canadians are starting to file for bankruptcy. No. The Office of the Superintendent of Bankruptcy Canada reported this week 7,658 Canadians filed insolvencies in September, an increase of almost 19% from the previous month's level and the highest since the COVID-19 pandemic began in March. Despite the economic hardship that the pandemic has brought, bankruptcy proceedings actually slowed to a crawl for most of 2020 because the unprecedented slew of support programs gave many Canadians a boost in their incomes. So because of COVID, the lockdowns and the restrictions and the mandates forced and thrust upon the people, some Canadians actually saw an increase in their income. So if you've gained from government intervention and a loss of your job, you know there's something really, really fucked up there. And you know you're going to be paying on the back end for all that bullshit, right? And often a temporary respite from their debts, enough to keep their heads above water. So like I say, this is just bailing people out that have made the wrong decisions, and not only bailing them out to keep their heads barely above water, but now you've literally got them to the point where you're propping them up and they're not just buoyant, but floating high above the water level. So, gee, I wonder if that's going to embolden them to make the same decisions, or bad decisions, I should say, economically going forward. Well, hey, if it worked for them the first time, right? Come on. In the early days of COVID-19, everything went on pause, including collections. Licensed insolvency trustee Andre Bolduc said in an interview, finances went on the back burner, but things are slowly getting back to the new normal. The insolvency rate is actually about a third lower than it was this time last year, but experts like Bolduc expect the number to multiply over the coming winter months and likely eclipse previous highs. Before COVID-19, a majority of households were living paycheck to paycheck, he said. Their debts didn't go anywhere, so they will still be there after COVID-19. Yeah, you're damn right there. And if you look at this household debt ratios around the world, look at that. You remember how places like Denmark is always touted as being one of the most happiest places on the world? Well, apparently, debt and never having to pay back your debt makes people really, really happy. So what are they at? 256% of debt. Yeah, I guess if you never have to pay back your debts, right? I suppose that does make people happy. But, who's going to pay off the debts? That would be my question. Or are we really living in a world where debts never have to be repaid? And think about the implications that means going forward. So, like I say, these are all scenarios that these centers and these utopians and these experts are all going to have to reckon with, because it's all going to unfold in real time for the rest of us that have to function in the real world, right? Liz Mulholland, CEO of Prosper Canada, a charity dedicated to expanding economic opportunity for Canadians living in poverty, described the situation as a slow-motion train wreck that's going to unfold over the next 6 months. Well, they've been trying to make this, they've been kicking the can down the road so long that, I don't know, they're thinking that if they just keep laying down enough track, that they're never going to ever meet any end. And in a round world, maybe they believe in something that's kind of makes sense on the surface, but once again, debt isn't the same as having a circumference or a globe where you can continually circumvent or circumnavigate that place, right? Debt is a totally different beast entirely. That's because while many parts of Canada's economy have largely recovered, that isn't the case for low-income Canadians, who are the most likely to lose a job to the pandemic and the least likely to have recovered one by now. So everything that the government's doing, what this CBC article is acknowledging, is everything the government is doing now is causing more and more harm, pains, and suffering towards the people that are at the lower end of this social economic world that we currently function in. So they're the ones that are being harmed the most. Is that done by accident or is it on purpose? I don't know. I'll leave that up to you to decide. While many Canadians have managed to make ends meet, Mulholland estimates that as much as 25% of the population are watching their financial position worsening by the week. They are moving inexorably towards their financial cliff of insolvency, and they will go over it sometime this winter, she said. Government programs such as the Canada Emergency Response Benefit, CERB, were a lifeline for many of them, but with that program finished and now transferred into the less generous Canada Recovery Benefit, which is itself set to expire next year, the number of Canadians on a financial knife's edge is set to grow. Michelle Pommel's CEO of Credit Counseling Canada says those income support programs certainly helped, as did much publicized mortgage deferral programs that gave roughly 1 in 6 Canadian borrowers a temporary reprieve on interest payments. But those programs are also winding down. For families that got into trouble, deferrals have helped but there's no such thing as a free lunch, she said in an interview. And so true indeed. And I'll place a link to this article in the description of the video as well. But it's just going to show you, folks, just one more anecdotal example of just how much pain is going to come on the back end of all this central planning and big government spending. Anyways, let me get back in the stream, see what else the rest of you folks are having to say here. Yeah, mask makers getting rich is fucked, right? That's the thing. That is one thing I will say about capitalism. It doesn't give a shit about your fields. People can make money from all kinds of crazy stuff, right? But hey, it is what it is. Whoa, I gotta go way up here. Whoa, thanks for all the great comments, by the way. I'm way far behind here. Dang. You folks have been really busy in the chat as of late. Thank you very much. Like I said, I really appreciate that. Dang, I gotta go way up, folks. Damn. Shared on Bookface and liked. Well, thank you very much, Chris. Nice. Backyard parties. Go for it. Have fun, folks. Have fun. Fart Compound Channel. Hey, love you, man, from Ottawa. Well, thank you very much, Fart Compound Channel. Love you right back. Really appreciate that. And thank you very much. You rock. Appreciate that. If you're reading this, you can hit this. Exactly. Hit the thumbs up, folks. Really nice. Nice fails dichotomy, LOL. Right on. Hey, Bennett, you rock, buddy. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that once again. I really do. Same thing. I love that picture. If we're going to shut down non-essential services, a large percentage of government should be the first to go. Right? I'm totally with you there. Non-essential services. Matter of fact, I would say every aspect of government is a non-essential service. And I think I've covered that quite extensively over the last 12 to 1,300 videos I produced over the last, 5 or 6 years. So, yeah, lots of evidence to back up that premise. Tim, I agree. Those fat pigs never missed a paycheck. I think Trump did one, and he got fucked over. He was in the lead, and overnight Biden had more votes. Well, it's all about these mail-in votes and ballots, right? So, listen, I've always said, whether this is legit or not, that's the thing with any pretense of democracy or populism or popular vote. Why do you think the majority of people should have the ability to vote to fuck over the rest of their peers? Like, what? This whole concept of democracy or majority or mob rule, it's all a fucking farce anyways. Imagine using that as an example in how you deal with things in your household, right? So let's say you got a 4 household. And as long as 3 out of 4 people in your household agree to one thing, that they could just impose themselves on that one lone outlier, right? Like, that's not like living in anything that's remotely resembling mutual respect or freedom or liberty. That's just mob rule. That's just, hey, might makes right. That's all at the end of the day. That's what majority is really at the end of the day, is might makes right. So it's back to the state of nature. So it's actually nothing even remotely what they would consider progress. But think about the kind of people who promote democracy are progressives, right? Progressives are all about might makes right. They're all about the majority or the mob rule, right? So how is that progressive? There's nothing progressive. That's tribalism. That's gang or gangster warfare, right? Whoever's got the most guns wins. How's that progress, right? Whoever's got the most stones, the most stones, or has the most spears, or the early iterations of gun, whoever's got the biggest army. It's all might makes right. There's nothing progressive about that. That's something that's been historically part and parcel of the human experience. I think the problem with progressivism is they don't understand the whole point of progress, right? Is to fucking get out from underneath this kind of bullshit of might makes right and start using this rather than this. And not to suggest that this doesn't work at times. I love using this from time to time, but mostly and always, as far as my own personal experience is a means to prevent other people from using force or violence towards me. That's it. But if you just want to use it preemptively, yeah, sure, it works. But then that's the kind of world you're creating. So don't get all mad, upset, or butthurt if other people want to use force or violence, coercion or theft against you, because that's all you promote. If that's what you promote, then don't get shocked or outraged when other people use that same means to an end as you do. Because once again, all it is at the end of the day is you're scared of losing under that scenario or that situation. Oiled up sumo wrestler. Yeah, last roll of toilet paper is yours. Back away slowly. Yeah. A good one. That's funny. Notice the commie creeping on me in my profile pic. Friggin' commies. Fuck the fucking commies, man. Although some of them have, that's the thing. I got mad respect for the commies that are against the establishment, but it's the commies that just want to create their whole new establishment. Like, you fuckers don't know how to. That's why you end up doing revolutions, because you always end up back in the same place. How about instead of these revolutions, we get into the adoption of evolution in terms of our mindset, in terms of our concept of what it is to be a free human being. Realist? I'm a realist. Hey, what's going on, Norm Whiffen? I really appreciate you joining the stream as well. COVID was patented in 2003. Not so sure about that, but thanks, like I say, for joining the stream. This was a planned pandemic. A pandemic, Wendy? Is that what you're suggesting? Sounds about right to me. Or it could have been. I don't know. But it's plausible. It was patented because it was changed and a gene was added. Norm Whiffen. Like I say, once again, I don't know, but I definitely support your ability to speak freely, which is why I always allow it on my platform. Hey, what's going on, Stuart Passmore? Good afternoon to you, sir. And thank you for joining the stream. And if you wouldn't mind, I'd really appreciate if you'd hit that like button, smash the subscribe button. And if you want to get notifications for any future uploads or videos or streams that I do, hit that bell icon and hit all. Because that way, guaranteed, no matter what the algorithm does, suggests, or recommends in your feed, you will definitely get notified anytime I produce any content going forward. So check that out. The virus didn't work the way it was supposed to with a 99% failure rate. I know, right? Fail. Hey, it is government. Anything the government does that's centrally planned usually is a big old fail. It ends when people stop complying. So never at this rate. Yeah, I agree, Steve. Or Stuart, sorry. Pretty much. Like Rika says, pretty much. Look up the patent and see for yourself. Hey, I definitely will, Norm Whiffen. I don't dispute or disagree with you, like I say, but I am the kind of person that I look to verify before I do anything where I say that I'm falling on the side of anything. And the reason why I do that is because that's what helps me stay on these platforms. You know, as much as YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, some of the insiders in those platforms would love to take me down, shut down, and silence me. But see, I'm much wiser than the average bear, which prevents them from doing so, which is why, yeah, I don't get as much sensationalized clickbaity type articles or narratives, but I'm going to be here, and I will be ultimately the last man standing. The COVID-19 test kit were ordered and started manufactured in 2017. See stuff like that, I just don't know, so I can't give an opinion one way or the other, and that's why I do that. If I don't know, it's so easy for me. If I don't know personally, I don't have to agree or disagree. I can just say I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't have to pretend that I know everything. I really don't. We really need a cancer vaccine, not a common. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that, because a couple of the fine folks at my work that I work now, actually this guy Tony, let me just bring up the fact that you brought up the word cancer. This fine gentleman that I worked with, and we worked together last time when I was at the particular place I'm working at now. I remember him saying that he was one of those guys, and he's like me. He had a wife of a very long time, actually 40 years, even superseding, exceeding even my current time frame of 30 years of my love of my life. He had her for 40 years, and apparently his wife died last year of cancer. And this is a man that typically, if you saw this man, if you knew this man like I knew him from his past, not someone that sheds a tear or is emotional in any way, but when he lost his lady, the love of his life, it definitely had a profound effect on his life, which shows just how important these very intimate relationships are in our life, and where we got to put the priorities back as being the most important aspects of what it is to be human beings living on this big giant globe floating through space at 1,000 miles per second. But yeah, it's a tough thing when people lose someone that's been a profound part and a very important part of their life for a long sustained period of their life. So yeah, cancer is something that, and every time I hear about someone that has lost a loved one, whether it's an intimate relationship or extended family, immediate family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, damn, cancer definitely is very prevalent in those discussions these days. And I really do wish that we could find a way to prevent this, but it doesn't seem as much money is going into fighting cancer research as it is to prolonging people's lives and sustaining their ability to at least extract economic prowess or I don't know what quite, I'm not quite sure the word I'm looking for, but it seems to all be about getting people to live longer with their diseases, but make it so that they got to pay for it, right? Rather than eliminate that pain or the potential from having to deal with these situations going forward. But yeah, that's rough. I'm not a fan of cancer. Cancer's been detrimental to so many people, and I've heard of so many sad and sob stories in my life that yes, I'm definitely with you that we definitely need to find a way to cure cancer. Cancer is a detriment. Chris Chudra is fight the good fight. I'm willing to protect those who can't defend themselves, but I'm only one person. That's why ship more like-minded people on board. No need for me to be everywhere, which is not possible. Hey, I hear you, Chris. And like you just do what you can do. You just do what you can do. There's nothing you can do outside of your own particular situation or circumstance. And just try your best. Keep doing your best. And hopefully it will, by you leading by example, other people, it'll catch on and they'll try to repeat or replicate, which will give more success to the rest of us for doing this and trying to complete these endeavors. No cure for the common cold, which is a coronavirus. Yeah, there's never been, right, John? Ziegel Bauer, thank you for joining the stream as well. Please hit that like button if you haven't already. People want shortcuts like vaccines and having someone else protect them. So true, right? Fuck personal responsibility. They just want, hey, just give me a quick fix, right? And that is so true. That literally describes the modern world we live in. Give me a quick fix so I don't have to deal with the real world. Man, does that ever, that's a fucking bumper sticker right there. Give me a quick fix so I don't have to deal with the real world, right? That is the modern world in 2020, folks, and it's a sad one. The pandemic is socialism. Well, Norm Whiffen, it's going to bring about that, and some people want to do that. Have a nice day, folks. Good to see channel still going. Cheers. And to you as well, Dave. And like I say, even though we might disagree on some things, man, you're always welcome and invited to come onto my channel and say whatever you got to say. I don't restrict, encumber, or impede anyone's ability to say what's on their mind. You do your thing, and I'll do my thing. Whole family of smokers went out for flu shots. Right. I got to get my flu shot. Right. That is too funny. They are living in fear. Yes, they are, Wendy. Yes, they are. Just check it out. Stop yelling. The lockdowns have nothing to do with keeping people safe. It's about how far governments can push control. Yes. Well, that's the thing with progressives. They don't seem to be about progress unless control, like if your goal is to have complete and utter control over everybody in society or ultimately the world, then progressives, they're on the right track, right? But that's the thing. That does not seem like progress. To have ultimate control, central plan. Progress to me, like if I was raising my kids, progress isn't me having to tell and dictate everything my sons have to do over the course of life. Progress is making sure that I've given them the skills, the competence, and the ability to think for themselves and do the right thing without me having to poke or prod them. That would be considered progress to me, right? But that's the world. That's the weird, wild world we live in under this modern form of progressivism. Progressivism is regression is now progressive. I don't know how that ever got to that point, but that is what it is. And I just don't want to have nothing to do with it. I don't want to participate in it. And the race to the bottom is nowhere that I want to be. Are there any countries other than Sweden that hasn't gone full retard? Not a whole lot, Stuart. Not a whole lot. And you know what? Sweden, the Swedish people, the Swedish government, the Swedish healthcare and medical field, a lot of them are like, they like to prove that they're superior in so many ways. And I suggest that it's good for them to at least try a different example. And I think, like I say, and I've said in the past a couple of streams, is eventually it'll be proven that herd mentality thing, that let's just deal with it the way it is and get it out of the way. I think it's going to prove to be, although I don't know if they've done as great a job as they probably should have in terms of protecting people in long-term healthcare facilities. Maybe not so much, right? So that's the thing. I'm not going to just say, oh, Sweden's done the best. I don't know. Like I say, I don't live there. I don't know the experience of everyone that lives there. But at least in some aspects, in some way, yeah, not restricting, not destroying all the freedoms of your people. Well, I mean, at the very least, that anecdotal experience and evidence is very good that we at least have that to use to compare and contrast against other countries and their massive impositions in terms of lockdowns, because all of this will be used for evidence, right, for the future. So, of course, we need to use, think about it. You need to use different experiments. If we all experiment in the same way, well, what the hell? That's just promoting one size fits all, and we'll never know what actually works best. But having multiple experiments around the world, it will actually give us real world anecdotal experience where we'll see what genuinely, hey, maybe some of this maybe the Swedish lockdown or anti-lockdown mentality or psychology proved to be beneficial in multiple ways, but maybe in other ways it didn't. That's the thing. Who knows? That's why top-down imposition and force and mandates, it literally restricts us advancing or genuinely progressing our mindset or intellect or our adoption in terms of what should take place. Having multiple experiments around the world is the only way we'll get that proper experience and evidence to know which works best. And even then, who knows? It might only work best in certain situations with certain demographics and under certain scenarios. Once again, but the only way we find that out is having multiple different experiments. If you all have the same experiment, well, you're all going to end up with the same results, right? And like I've said so many times before, that one size fits all doesn't always work out as people expect it to be. The serpent tribe is trying to destroy the eagle's tribe. Well, thank you very much, Ezra Markovitz. Really appreciate you joining the stream. And you're right, Sky News is on fire. And I like to know that Sky News has this kind of information put out there because somebody's got to do it. There's still little to no evidence for the effectiveness of cloth face masks in the general population. Hey, haven't you heard? Tam said, just throw on another layer, right? Like I've said so many times in the past, just look at the people that manufacture these masks. Fuck politics. The people that actually produce and provide these masks, just look on the disclaimers on their boxes, their packaging, and it'll tell you, yeah, we can't say that it'll protect you from coronavirus or any virus for that matter, because no, it doesn't, right? So they actually admit it, whereas politicians, they try to politicize and suggest otherwise. Well, which one are you going to trust? The people who are actually liable and responsible for what they got to say, or people who like to play politics? I'll leave that in your hands, because, hey, at the end of the day, it's all about personal responsibility as far as I'm concerned. No, I agree with you, Betrayed. I was trying to find the cutesy term they created for we non-maskers. Non-masters. Yeah, I don't like the anti-masker stuff. That's kind of bullshit, right? Find one for us, Rika, because I would like to use something much better than, yeah, anti-masker. That's a bullshit term. I don't like it. Just got back from church. Right on. First 5 minutes of sermon, praying God protect us from this deadly pandemic. Warnings to maintain distances, masking. Oh no, they're getting all dogmatic too. Of course, not like people in the church aren't used to being dogmatic, right? So there's that. Hey, thank you very much. Just subscribe his channel. Hey, thank you, Chris. Really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate that, buddy. Make sure you hit that like button, or not just subscribe. Make sure you hit that bell notification and hit the all so that you get notifications every single time I upload a video or start a live stream on this channel. Then you'll have no excuse as to why you didn't get your notification. Nice. I'm so glad you got that notice, and I'm glad that you like this show. All libertarians should stop paying taxes. Well, listen, as a libertarian myself, I never pay taxes. Taxes are forcefully taken from me when I go to work, and I don't have any choice in that. I've talked to my employers and said, would you please stop doing that? But none of them will agree, right? And unless I want to start my own business as a sole proprietor, which I have done in the past. I actually have done that. If you want to check it out, look it up. Team X Racing. It's a sole proprietor. The only business I've ever owned in my life was my Team X Racing, and it was set up as a sole proprietor. And yeah, I never had to pay any taxes on my my business that I set up. And I would definitely, like, I don't believe in forced wealth and income redistribution. If you want money from me, ask for it, and I might voluntarily choose to help donate or support you. But if you want to take from me preemptively against my express or implied permission, yeah, I don't agree with that. Hashtag taxation is theft. So yeah, I'm definitely not against it, and I definitely am not a supporter of paying taxes. Because if you can take from me against my will, there's no way for me to hold you to account, right? And I'm all about accountability and personal responsibility. I think Dave's gone 33 minutes after typing that. Very well could be the case, Rika. Not necessarily. Listen, folks, let's not get too much into fighting with each other. I don't know. And you know what? Dave is in last time I checked. You know what? That's what I mean. I don't want to fight with anyone. I'd rather just bring the man on, have a conversation. Let's talk about it, Dave. Let's talk about it, buddy. I'm pretty sure we'll come to the realization that hey, if you're a reasonable person, I'm pretty sure we'll come to the conclusion that we're right there. We might have some disagreements, but as long as at the end of the day, you're like, don't force yourself on me. I won't force myself on you. We'll be okay. Yeah, STD is more contagious than stupid 19. Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah, STDs was quite prevalent when I was growing up. I was fortunate enough to avoid that stuff because I didn't like to stick my dick in just about anything. I was quite particular in that stuff. But I've known a few people that, yeah, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Wuhan currently has people whooping it up at nightclubs, maskless. Can you imagine? Yeah, I remember seeing that one. Okay. The common enemy of humanity is man. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine, and the like would fit the... I like what you're saying there, Rika. Hold on. Let me keep going here. The bell. All these dangers are caused by human intervention, and it's only through changed attitudes and behavior that they can be overcome. The real enemy, then, is humanity itself. Club of Rome. Really good, Rika. Really good. Really appreciate you sharing that as well. Jesuit oath almost died to bring the kingdom of communism. Bring in the kingdom. Ooh, don't like that one. Not a fan of that. Hey, Matt Dugas, really appreciate you joining the stream as well. An army of sheep led by the tail. Yeah, so true. So true. Paul Lucas, thank you, sir. I get churches need to comply, but my church's message this morning embellished it, and they were clearly promoting the fear and hysteria angle of COVID. Damn. You know, maybe one of these days I'm going to have to go frequent a church, right? See what's up. I would love to call it some of the bullshit. Even as a young kid, I could barely understand this stuff. I remember challenging some of the dogma of the church, even as a very, very, very young man, right? It's the reason why I challenged some of the dogma of status, right? All built on mysticism and false premises. I don't like it. Let's ground our thoughts, our premises, and our principles on philosophical realities and objective and logical reasoning, right? That's my thing. Politics is downstream from culture. So true, Don Knighthood. So true. You're funny, Chris. Right on, my friend. Okay, where are we at? Don Hicks. Hey, Don, what's going on? You don't hear anything about therapeutics, do you? That's true. That's true. Speaking of Don Hicks, really always nice to see John Hicks, man. That guy is a really, really wise individual. And I've been sharing quite a lot of his stuff on Facebook. If you haven't already, let me just mention, folks, on Facebook in particular, now he's probably on a lot of the other social media platforms, but on Facebook, I see a lot of his stuff popping up on my newsfeed. Great content. Matter of fact, kind of like me. Little mad props on little pat on the back there. But I really like a lot of the stuff that John shares. So definitely check out John Hicks on Facebook. And if you wonder if you're getting the right John Hicks, just look for anything he's produced, provided, liked, shared, or commented on my page, on my social media page, my Canadian Libertarian Facebook page. That way you'll make sure you get the right guy. But yeah, John Hicks, and I'm definitely looking forward to having him on the show at some point in time in the future. If you haven't already, check out my live stream that I did with him, John Hicks, and another gentleman in regards to the abortion debate or discussion. Really important stuff that was, and yeah, even though it was three guys talking about abortion, no women, I wish I had a woman on and actually discuss that particular topic. It would have been really great. Unfortunately, it just didn't happen. It didn't come to fruition. But even if they're for three guys, you will see that none of us has ever taken the position that, yeah, guys should ever have the pretense of telling women what to do. And that's the end all be all. But thinking more critically about the issue of what exactly abortion means, how that plays out, the morality or immorality of it, that was really important. And I think, like I say, I think that was a great video that really delved down deep into that topic. Hey, Chris P., thank you very much for joining the stream. Today's left seems to be at least partly about passive aggression, control of others through virtue signaling government-backed agendas. Chris P., that is one hell of a mouthful and probably the most articulate, poignant, and truth statement I've seen in a long time. So let me just repeat that once again, Chris P. Today's left seems to be at least partly about passive aggressive control of others through virtue signaling government-backed agendas. God damn it, Chris. Actually, if you wouldn't mind, if you don't, I'm going to quote that comment. Matter of fact, I'm going to actually bring that, see if I can share it right now. Damn it, no, I can't. I'm going to have to do this somehow at some point. Let me look on, let's see if there's anything I can do. But I'm going to share, and I'm going to quote your exact comment on this stream on all of my social media pages, because I think that's probably one of the most important and poignant articulated points that anyone has ever said in my stream in recent times. And that is absolute truth. So let me see. Can I do it from here? No. Let me screen capture this shit. That way I'll at least have it. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So just give me one quick second, folks. I know it's a little bit where I'm interrupting myself here, but this is really great because that is so important. That is a truthful statement if ever I've seen one. Crop. Okay. There we go. So yeah, look forward to me sharing this on my social media pages in the future, unless you have any or take any issues with that, Chris. And if you do, let me know in a comment below, and I won't share it on my social media platforms, but I'm pretty sure you're probably okay with me doing so. But like I said, let me know if not, because I'm definitely going to share what you had to say. All evidence shall be memory hold by Google Inc. Well, I hope that's not the case. Hey, Matt Dugas, what's going on? Chuck, too. But that could very well take place because, like we're acknowledging, Enrique's pointing out, the same people that run these platforms aren't the same people that started out. So I don't know what they're going to do with it, but I'm worried and concerned just as much as you are, Rika. I really am. Chuck P. Thanks, Canadian. Love your show. We'll really appreciate that, Chris. And please subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button on this particular one. And hit that bell icon. Hit the all notifications so you can get notified as soon as I start to upload any new videos and streams. And that's another thing. Let me point out, folks. It's going to be soon time where my particular work, it always shuts down the winter. And once it does shut down, I'm going to get more in deep into doing these things. And you know what? I'm actually going to get back into doing my short videos because they seem to have the most interaction, the most participation, the most comments, the most likes. So I'm going to get back into doing my regular scheduled video uploads, and I'll probably do it like 3 or 4 times a week, as I always did, right? Talking about the most important or poignant cases, articles, or information as it pertains to the human experience and what liberty and freedom all entails. I'm going to cover that stuff regularly, and I'm going to get back into doing much more live streams as I have been doing lately. Like I say, lately, I just, my time has been preoccupied in my physical work world. I just don't have a whole lot of time left over at the end of the day. I've had to be busy. Hey, winter is coming, right? So I've had to been busy making sure I got my wood put in, making sure all the vehicles are ready to handle those cold, harsh, brutal winters. So, but I'm definitely going to be playing a more active role on social media going forward. And like I say, I'm going to really need your folks' help in showing some support and maybe help spread this information to other people that might find this stuff that's not just important, that resonates with them as well. So yeah, thanks, Chris B, and please share. I agree. HCQ and zinc are the tickets. So hydrochloroquine, I've heard some great positive aspects of that as well. I always enjoy your show, and I hope your family's doing well. They are actually doing really well, and I'm really happy with that, Denny, and I'm hoping the same is true for you and yours as well. Because that, at the end of the day, it's family, right? Family, those close connections, those bonds, those things that really mean and resonate with us, and the gift that just keep giving. That's an important aspect of humanity. That's the whole important point of that human experience. So thanks, you folks. And like I say, actually at this point in time, we're at 156. So I'm going to tie this stream up. Like I say, really, really appreciate all you fine folks giving out all these great comments, these kudos, these support, and helping each other. Not even much in terms of disagreements or arguments in the chat, which tells me you people are just so respectful of each other. And that's the kind of people that I really want resonating with my channel and having part and parcel of this whole liberty movement is we got to lead by example. And you folks definitely do that on a level that is so vastly superior to so many people in so many ways, which is why I'm so proud to continue to do what I do. And while I continue to keep putting out this content as long as I can do. Why? Because, like I say, we are, at the end of the day, we're the ones that are going to, when you talk about progress, and I'm not talking about progressivism, but progress means gaining and attaining more human individuality, autonomy, sovereignty, and freedom and liberty at the end of the day. And I think we're the folks that do that best. And I think we're the ones that are leading by example. And like I say, I have tremendous respect for all you folks. And thanks to all of you that keep showing up time and time again to help not just resonate this stuff and solidifying or reinforcing our agreements with each other, but helping making this more prevalent and accepting of other people. Because that's the thing. Collectivism has a very dominant and prominent role in not just Canadian psychology and society, but in a lot of the Western world and the rest of the world. What sounds good in theory or on the surface, yeah, we got to delve down deep. It's our point is to rain on that particular parade and show that, yeah, it sounds good in theory, but what does it mean in practice? What does it mean in the real world? That's our duty. That's our responsibility, is to show that, yeah, utopianism sounds good in theory, might sound good on paper, but what does it ultimately mean? How do you get from point A to B in the real world? That's where we construct and criticize these utopian central planners and make it so that they at least understand, hopefully, or the rest of the world understands, or the people who support them, that no, we're never going to get that point. The only way we get the point where human flourishment, development, and cooperation is done peacefully, prosperously, and voluntarily is if we have mutual respect and own up to the fact that we're all sovereign, individual, personally responsible human beings that are not sacrificial lambs to any collective or any endeavor. The only thing that we need to sacrifice ourselves for in any way, and I wouldn't even say it's a sacrifice, I would say it's a dividend that'll keep paying, is the promotion of individual freedom and liberty. Because that's the only thing that every one of us as individuals benefit at the end of the day. This is Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.